Whoa, welcome back to the channel. RevCav RC. Got another episode here. I'll call this the post-run video. We're going to talk about it. That was kind of a shakedown. That first run out there, I didn't do any talking. It was just trail run footage out at Slick Rock. I think this thing did really well, especially for what it is. And I think even though it is a hard and heavy body, because it is also quite wide and the body tapers up, I think that it handles pretty well and it didn't get too squirrely on the side hills. I am probably going to go ahead and add some two-stage 2.2 foams to this. I think that will drastically improve the side hilling and the hill climbing, because the rears tend to want to squish and really deform. And I'm going to talk in this video about some things that I noticed that are going to improve the performance, especially in the steering. I guess mostly in the steering. The drivetrain itself and the programming that you can do with the Angry Snail app, which I talked about in an earlier video, are actually really good. I think the drivetrain, the motor, the ESC and all that is really good in this thing. So I just don't have any complaints about that. And what I'm going to show you here is just more that I noticed that kind of boggle the mind, and I think it has more to do with the assembly than the design itself. But I want to square this thing up to the camera as best as I can, and maybe you can see it, maybe not, but tires are towed out. They're like that way. And that is often the case with bashers. High-speed cars will come slightly towed out because it helps them move in a straight line or track straight at higher speeds. And I thought, well, maybe that's why they did this and all that. And, we had the bearing issue, and then I fixed that because it was missing the bearing. And it's still a little bit towed out. Everything is nice and tight. But some things that I noticed, and I'm going to show you here in this video and how we're going to fix it. One thing seems like probably poor assembly or poor execution in the way it was intended to be assembled, if we grant that the towed out nature of the front tires is on purpose. I don't like that. I'm going to fix it, and you're going to see real quickly why it looks like that. And also, the servo saver steering link on here, it works, but a little bit too well, in my opinion. So I'm going to take that off and we're going to talk about it. But first, before we do that, I'm going to show you the steering. If you look at the steering trim, this orientation, let me change that. It's at about 2 o'clock, a little bit past 2 on the steering trim to make it go straight. I think we can do better. And there's a couple of things that are happening here. Number one, with a steering link that has a shock spring type setup, a servo saver that allows the steering link to change in length, the steering trim can be variable. That might change, take a hit, springs do weird things, whatnot. You just don't get precise, exact steering consistently over and over. So I think we can do better here. I'm going to take the servo horn loose with this thing centered and try to recenter everything the way that I think it ought to be. And maybe this is as good as it gets with the spline count and orientation, everything on there. So we'll see. But that's kind of not really the point of this video, because this is totally fine. We can work with that. There's still adjustment both directions if we need it. So that's just fine. The thing that I want to point out is, if you look right down here, right where my finger is, right there, that big gap, this rod end is not screwed in all the way. And if you look down here, this one is. So this bar that connects both sides together, one side is unthreaded 1/8 of an inch, which would lead to these wheels being towed out, because that bar not being threaded in over here is pushing them away from each other. So I am going to first take that off, screw it all the way in and put it back, and then see what adjustments are done here, and maybe that will make the steering straight on here and on the truck. So I'm going to do that first. And then we're going to see if we got to change the servo, and we're also going to take the shock here. And I'm going to show you what that looks like and why I'm not a big fan of this. If you look at how much play, the servo is holding steady. There's springs in there, and I've already taken it apart to look at it, but I'll put it back on the truck so you can see what it looks like. There's actually oil filled. There's oil in here and 2 springs. That's pretty brilliant, and it does function the way they want it to, but it's not how I want it. So we're going to make it how I want it. There's just a lot of movement in there. So I noticed that in watching the trail footage and then playing with it off camera out there at Slick Rock, the steering servo would push. It would give me what I'm asking, but this servo saver was limiting my ability to actually point the truck where I wanted in some cases, you know, under downhill or heavy load on the front end. So we're going to rectify that here, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. Yeah, but first let me do this, and then we'll take that off. Or I'll probably go ahead and let me leave that on where it is. Let's see, what's the best way to do this? Because I don't want to have to undo things twice. So let me just do this one real quick, because that's actually really simple. This is all very simple, but I want to have a sure and steady, stiff servo linkage before I go trying to tune my steering anywhere else, here or the servo saver. So I'm going to pop this off here, and we will go from there. Now, this servo horn has 2 holes, an upper and a lower. Right now it's in the upper. The higher hole gives you more torque because it's shortening the arm in which, like, the leverage against the servo, but it gives you less throw. So we might play with maybe using the bottom hole on the servo horn if we need to. If we want to get more servo throw. I don't necessarily know that we need to. We'll see how the truck turns once we get everything else kind of dialed in, if we need to even mess with that. It's fairly simple. We're just going to move down 1 hole. It elongates the arm on the servo, well, the connection point, which then gives the servo itself more throw. So that's out. I'm going to put this screw right back in there just to keep everything together. Yep, keep that together. And we'll go ahead and pull this apart. Power tools for the win. See, our servo is not on here anymore. We're not connected, so we get nice and easy free moving steering. So that gives me easy access to this. So we pop this off. See, how am I doing this and not blocking you guys? Yeah, we're all right. Yeah, so I'm going to wind this back all the way on. Don't know why it was assembled that way, but pretty easy. Can I go further? That's as good as it gets. Okay. If the track is now towed in, we can just adjust either side to get something that looks equal. But I'm going to see what it looks like with everything tightened up. As it probably ought to have been. And we'll go from there. All right, so that was easy. Like I said, I already had this apart. There was oil in here. I'm going to put some more oil in it, but I put it back on just to show you guys. Let's bring you in. Right. Yeah. Are we in the X? There's the X. I'm going to be just a little higher than the X. Okay. So this was finger tight, and it was not leaking any oil. So the seals they had in here were good. What we have here is actually really smart. Let me put it back together to show you why. There's two springs, one on either side of this rod. So it does a thing, and it feels actually really stout whenever you do it manually. But you get the pull dampening. I don't know if you can tell, but I am pulling that. It is quite difficult right there. And the push. So we are getting pretty good push and pull, which means you're getting dampening capabilities, both left and right forces on the truck itself. So if you take a hit from the right, it gets damped. Take a hit from the left, it gets damped. It's not just one or the other. There's two springs in here. There was quite a bit more oil. I already dumped that all out doing my exploration. So what you have is a spring on either side inside of here, which that pulls against the cap, and then this pushes against the bottom of this to provide your push-pull stability. Now, I didn't like that this was so easily moved and persuaded on the truck. So what I initially did is I took the spring and I stretched it and I put it back together and I tested it on the bench, moving it with my hands, and it got a lot tighter. But I think that that's going to eventually relax back to where it was. So what I'm going to try is just putting in this rubber. This is a 5th scale servo mount, like rubber piece. It goes on the corners, the 4 different mounts for a 5th scale, if you want to use the rubber mounts instead of just mounting it straight in solid. But I'm going to put that in there, and that's going to compress. That's going to compress. That's going to go down in here. Tell you what, it actually worked better. Yeah, it would give me what I want both directions. I was just going to put this in there, but it would only give me the additional dampening one direction to push that direction, not to pull that direction. So I think what I need to do is take this apart and add something similar inside of that half of the system. Or I can cut this in half. Let me bring it back out. Cut this in half and put part of it on either side. I'll do that. I know from doing this earlier that this is hand tight. It's a pain in the butt, but it was hand tight. So you don't need to worry about scratching this up because there isn't enough movement in this to actually have the seals ever touch the part that you're applying pliers to. So I'm not worried about that really at all. Because the seals that you worry about are up here where the oil is, and I'm not putting pliers up here, so we don't care about that. All right, take that apart. Note, we have this is plastic. That is a nut. It's got like a hex shape to it. I don't have one that fits that, and the one that did fit it, this was too tight, and it just kind of rounded it off. So I gave up and just used my brute finger strength. So I'm going to take this. Where do I want to put it? Do I want to put it against this side? Against that seal? Or against this and that? I think try to cut this in half. Yep, we got her cut in half. Is that even in camera? Oh, it's way down there. Let me change this a little bit. All right, so we got our two halves, and coincidentally, they are about the right. Oh, that almost seems like it was made for it. Yeah, look at that. So that spring will sit down in there nicely, like that. It's got almost a seal effect. So the inner diameter of this fits in there really nicely. Well, that almost looks like it was made to do that. All right. Put this back on. Now there is nowhere to put this inside of a length of this. So it's just, I'm going to put it at the bottom of this tube, and then it will push this spring slightly tighter up. Just that little bit more to give us the effect that we want. So we're not adding anything hard in here that is going to potentially endanger the servo. I did entertain just putting on a solid link or taking all the guts out of this and adding something inside that was solid. But I'm going to give the servo saver the opportunity to do its job. Well, I'm having a hard time starting this thing. Nope, there it goes. I'm going to try to let the servo saver be functional. I could always get a servo saver that is designed as the servo. It's part of the servo. But I have one. I'm just going to use this. I have one that's made for a Wraith. So, and it's got adjustable tension. But we're going to use this. This was screwed in roughly flush with that, so I just need to go a few more. All right, that's good. All right, so we've added a little bit in here for this half of the system. We'll take that and we'll just kind of sandwich it right there. Put it at the bottom. I'm just going to put this together and show you. Oh, I wonder if I added too much. Nah. Okay. Still got a little bit of give, but that's much, much more difficult to move than it was. I think that might do it. And I really don't think the oil is necessary because you're not really getting any actual shock dampening action here. All we're doing is allowing the spring system here, the push-pull system, to rebound back to the center of what it is. Yeah, I'm not gonna worry about the shock oil. It's a nice touch. If this thing actually had any real movement in and out, because right now we just have that much. It's basically nothing. So I don't think I'm gonna bother with it. I don't think we're ever going to notice it either. So, I lied to you. I'm not going to put oil back in this. I don't think it matters. Not for what we're doing. All right. Let's see if I can get this back over here. All right. Now, in terms of the orientation for whether it goes like this or like this, I don't think that matters. For whatever reason, I am choosing to do it like this. These are going to be these are going to be 90 degrees from each other, the whole orientation. So servo like that, and then the steering side, the hub side, like that. All right, I'm going to go back with that top hole. Where it was originally. Put our wheel back on and just see what it all looks like now. And we're going to see how much more resistant to the spring on the inside of the servo link, what that looks like. All right, from first glance, looks like, where's my remote? Let's see. I think that looks better. I can't quite tell what center is without putting it on the ground. But that toe out effect seems to be significantly reduced, if not gone. Let's see what the steering servo stiffness looks like. Yeah, that's a lot better. Still got some movement. It still has the ability to save the servo. What do we have for throw? Pretty good. You can see the servo saver is doing its job out here because this is getting locked up as far as it can pull. Could do with a little bit more to the right, but that angle is decent. Yeah, you can see it's touching right there off to the right, or the driver's side. We're getting full there. The other side is just short, maybe a millimeter. We could go a little bit more there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to, let's see, how much trouble is that going to be? Let's see, if I remove the servo horn, I don't think I don't think it's going to work. There's not a big enough difference for that to matter. Yeah, I'm going to leave the servo horn exactly where it is. I'm going to lower the screw on here, add some throw, and then reduce the overall throw on the steering. I'm going to do that right now. So we'll change this to the lower portion, the lower hole. So the steering servo will have to work harder now because we are changing the leverage point further away from its rotation. And it looks like our saver still clears. It's not touching. Yep. All right. Now, what we're looking to do is see, does that touch that? Well, that's about perfect, actually. They both roughly touch C-hub to axle right here on both sides. Yeah. The servo saver isn't actually having to elongate or compress right there. So I've backed the steering down quite a bit. And get you back into the... I backed the steering off quite a bit. It's roughly 70% from full right here. Under load, I will likely bump that up a little bit because the spring in the servo saver is going to try to stop me from doing it, from pushing it to its max. So that's another cool thing about the servo saver is if your endpoints are maxed out too far, it stops the servo from pushing against a mechanical stop on either side. So pretty sweet. Yeah, all I have left to do is trim it out while it's on the ground and moving. But that is gonna be a pretty good improvement there, and basically costs nothing. I still have my saver function. I'm gonna go ahead and order some 2.2 dual stage foams or silicones or something to stick in this thing. Just need to measure and see what size these are. I don't want to go too big. I just want to stabilize for side hills and hard inclines. Otherwise, this thing is pretty legit. I really do like it. I think they've done a heck of a job, and it's a lot of fun. It's plenty fast. All of the high and low and diff locking functions work great. It's got some extra channels here for other things. There might be a way to stick a winch on there. I don't know. They don't see a whole lot of room in there, so that will probably never happen. This is mostly just going to be a nice, big, fun trail truck that has all the looks in most of the performance. So that's going to do it for this video. This has been the MJX HP8, I think. No, H8P Ford Bronco. Awesome 8-scale, big, bad mamma jamma. Really do like this thing. Such a cool rig. Actually performs quite well. And we're going to get it back out on the rocks. See if it performs any better with these couple of mods. And I got to chalk up the weird steering link not threaded in thing, because I didn't do that, and it can't undo itself, to the assembly, because I don't see how that could undo itself. I feel like unless one side is no, because then that side would be screwed in too far or stripped or something. So no, there's just really no way that I can fathom. I think it came that way and I just didn't notice it. But now we all know what to look for if you get one of these things. It's actually really good. And if you can find these, I got on AliExpress. They're super cool. But anyway, like, share, comment, subscribe. Let me know down below what you think about what I've done here. If you have one of these, let me know what you think. If I find that this steering mod has now given the servo more than it can chew, I'll swap it out with something better. You probably already know what that might be. So we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for stopping by, as always. And yeah, do all the stuff. Later.